You look in the mirror and the gray is spreading. A few strands became a section became the dominant color, and somewhere along the way you stopped recognizing the person looking back at you. The automatic response for most people is chemical dye. Cover it, repeat every 6 weeks, commit to an expensive maintenance cycle for the rest of your life, and the chemicals in those dyes, applied directly to your scalp every few weeks for years, absorb into the skin, enter circulation, and do things to your body that most people never connect to the bottle in their bathroom. But here is what almost nobody is telling you. The color of your hair is not just a cosmetic issue. It is a biological process. It depends on specific cells in your hair follicles called melanocytes, and those melanocytes depend on specific nutrients to function. When those nutrients are missing, melanin production slows, hair loses its pigment, and the gray that you thought was simply aging is sometimes, not always, but sometimes, a nutritional signal your body has been sending you for years. There is a seed that has been used for centuries in Eastern medicine specifically for hair pigmentation and scalp health. Modern nutritional science has now explained exactly why it works. And the mechanism is not mysterious. It is biochemistry. I'm Dr. Jake Taylor. Today, I am going to show you what black sesame seeds are, what they do inside the body at the cellular level, how to use them correctly both internally and topically, what results are realistic, and the mistakes that prevent most people from seeing any benefit at all. Before we go further, where in the world are you watching from right now? Drop your country in the comments. I genuinely want to know where this channel is reaching. It takes 2 seconds and it helps more than you might think. One more thing I want to address directly before we get into the biology. A lot of people watching this video have already spent money on products marketed to reverse gray hair, supplements with dramatic before and after photographs, shampoos claiming to restore natural color. Most of these products either do nothing measurable or, in the case of products containing lead acetate, which was used in some older gray reversal products, introduce genuine health risks. The reason black sesame seeds are worth taking seriously is not marketing. It is biochemistry. The copper-tyrosinase connection in melanin synthesis is established science, not a proprietary claim made by a company selling a product. That distinction matters when you are deciding what to put in your body. Why hair goes gray and what nutrition has to do with it. Before we get to the seed itself, you need to understand the biological mechanism behind hair graying, because without this understanding, black sesame seems like folk remedy. With it, the nutritional science makes complete sense. Hair color is produced by melanin, a pigment manufactured by specialized cells called melanocytes located in the hair follicle. Melanocytes produce 2 types of melanin, eumelanin, which produces dark tones, and pheomelanin, which produces lighter and reddish tones. The combination and concentration of these 2 pigments determines your hair's natural color. The enzyme responsible for initiating melanin production is called tyrosinase. Tyrosinase converts the amino acid tyrosine into the precursors that eventually become melanin pigment. Without tyrosinase activity, the melanin synthesis chain breaks down entirely regardless of how many melanocytes are present. Here is the nutritional connection. Tyrosinase is a copper-dependent enzyme. It cannot function without adequate copper. When copper levels in the body are insufficient, tyrosinase activity declines, melanin production slows, and hair progressively loses its pigment. This is a documented biochemical relationship, not a theory. Simultaneously, oxidative stress accelerates melanocyte deterioration. Free radicals generated by stress, environmental pollution, poor sleep, and dietary factors damage melanocyte DNA and cellular membranes. When melanocytes are damaged faster than the body can repair them, pigment production declines ahead of the natural aging schedule. Research has shown that hydrogen peroxide, a byproduct of normal cellular metabolism, accumulates in hair follicles with age and bleaches the hair from within. Catalase, the enzyme that breaks down hydrogen peroxide before it causes this damage, requires specific cofactors to function, including minerals found abundantly in black sesame seeds. This is why the same age produces dramatically different hair graying rates in different people. Genetics sets the baseline, but nutrition, oxidative stress load, and sleep quality determine how far ahead of or behind that baseline your melanocytes actually perform. Research has also identified that B12 deficiency is directly associated with premature graying, and that correcting this deficiency in people with documented B12 insufficiency has produced visible reduction in gray hair growth in clinical observations. B12 is required for the normal development and maintenance of melanocytes. Its absence creates a cellular environment in which melanocytes deteriorate faster and produce less pigment, regardless of the integrity of the tyrosinase pathway. This is one reason why graying often accelerates in people following plant-based diets without adequate B12 supplementation, and why addressing nutritional status broadly, not just targeting copper alone, produces better outcomes than a narrowly targeted supplement approach. Black sesame seeds address this mechanism through 3 specific pathways, and understanding those 3 pathways explains both why the seed works and why it requires consistent long-term use rather than producing overnight results. If what you have heard so far is giving you a new way to think about something you assumed was just aging, subscribe right now. We publish every week, and this is exactly the kind of information we share. Subscribe, and let's continue. Why black sesame seeds work. The 3 biological mechanisms. 1. Copper delivery for tyrosinase activation. Black sesame seeds are among the richest dietary sources of copper available. A single tablespoon of black sesame seeds contains approximately 0.7 milligrams of copper, representing about 78% of the daily recommended intake for adults. But the form of copper in black sesame matters as much as the quantity. The copper in black sesame is bound to organic compounds within the seed matrix, which means it is absorbed more gradually and efficiently than inorganic copper supplements. It enters circulation in a form that is bioavailable to the enzyme systems that need it, including tyrosinase in the hair follicle. When copper availability is restored to adequate levels, tyrosinase activity can resume at its full capacity. Melanocytes that were producing reduced amounts of pigment due to copper insufficiency begin producing more. This is not instantaneous. The hair follicle cycle means that changes in melanocyte activity appear in new hair growth, not in existing strands. The timeline for visible change is measured in months, not days. Mechanism 2. Antioxidant protection for melanocyte survival. Black sesame seeds contain 2 unique antioxidant compounds found in significant concentrations almost nowhere else in the food supply: sesamine and sesamolin. These lignans are fat-soluble antioxidants that concentrate in lipid-rich tissues, including the lipid membranes of hair follicle cells. Sesamine specifically has been shown in research to inhibit the accumulation of hydrogen peroxide in tissues, addressing one of the primary mechanisms of premature melanocyte damage. By reducing the oxidative burden on melanocytes, sesamine extends the functional lifespan of these cells. Melanocytes that would otherwise have been damaged or destroyed continue producing pigment. Additionally, the vitamin E content of black sesame seeds provides a second layer of antioxidant protection at the cellular membrane level, complementing the sesamine and sesamolin activity with a well-established fat-soluble antioxidant that directly neutralizes the free radicals generated by cellular metabolism. Mechanism 3. Scalp nutrition through essential fatty acids. Black sesame seeds contain a profile of essential fatty acids including oleic acid and linoleic acid that, when absorbed topically or metabolized internally, improve the nutritional environment of the scalp and hair follicle. Healthy sebum production, adequate scalp circulation, and maintained follicle integrity all depend on adequate essential fatty acid availability. The zinc content of black sesame seeds supports the cellular repair mechanisms in follicle tissue. Zinc is required for DNA synthesis and cell division, both of which are essential for the ongoing renewal of melanocyte populations in the follicle. Iron, also present in significant quantities in black sesame seeds, supports the oxygen delivery to follicle tissue through its role in hemoglobin. Iron deficiency is one of the most common nutritional causes of both hair loss and accelerated graying in adults over 40, and black sesame seeds address this deficiency as a natural dietary source. These three mechanisms do not produce change overnight. They produce change the way all genuine biological restoration produces change, gradually, progressively, and cumulatively over consistent long-term use. There is a fourth dimension to black sesame's effect on hair health that is worth naming separately because it addresses a mechanism most people have never considered. Black sesame seeds contain significant quantities of B vitamins, including B1, B2, and B3. These vitamins support the energy metabolism of rapidly dividing cells, and hair follicle cells are among the most metabolically active in the human body. Each individual hair follicle cycles through growth, transition, and resting phases continuously. The energy demand of this cycling is substantial. B vitamin deficiency impairs follicle cell division, reduces hair growth rate, and has been associated with both accelerated graying and increased hair loss. The B vitamin content of black sesame seeds addresses this metabolic dimension alongside the copper, antioxidant, and fatty acid mechanisms already described. This is why people using the protocol consistently often report improvements in hair density and growth rate alongside any changes in pigmentation. The seed is supporting follicle function broadly, not targeting a single pathway in isolation. How to use black sesame seeds the right way. Step 1. Eating it correctly. 1 tablespoon of black sesame seeds daily is the dose that places you within the therapeutic range for all three mechanisms described above without exceeding safe dietary limits for any of the minerals involved. The preparation method matters. Whole unground seeds pass through the digestive system largely intact because the hard outer shell limits enzymatic access to the nutrients inside. For maximum bioavailability, the seeds should be lightly toasted and then ground immediately before use or soaked overnight and ground the following morning. Ground black sesame seeds can be added to plain yogurt, stirred into oatmeal, blended into a smoothie, sprinkled over a salad, or mixed into a tablespoon of raw honey. The fat content of the seed means that consuming it alongside other foods containing healthy fats enhances absorption of the fat-soluble compounds including sesamin, sesamolin, and vitamin E. Consistency is non-negotiable. The copper and antioxidant compounds in black sesame seeds work through daily accumulation in tissue. Missing one day is not consequential. Missing most days is. The biological timeline for visible results is a minimum of 60 to 90 days of consistent daily use, and more typically 3 to 6 months before changes in new hair growth become clearly visible. This timeline is not a failure of the seed, it is the hair follicle cycle operating at its normal pace. 2 combinations that enhance the internal protocol's effectiveness significantly. First, pairing black sesame seeds with a small amount of vitamin C at the same meal, whether from fresh fruit, raw vegetables, or a supplement, increases iron absorption from the seeds by up to 3 times. Iron absorption from plant sources is dramatically improved by simultaneous vitamin C intake. Second, consuming the seeds with a meal that contains healthy fat increases absorption of the fat-soluble compounds, including sesamin, sesamolin, and vitamin E. A tablespoon of black sesame seeds stirred into yogurt with some fresh berries and a drizzle of olive oil addresses all of these absorption factors simultaneously and takes under 2 minutes to prepare. Step 2. Applying it to your scalp. Topical application of black sesame seed paste directly delivers the essential fatty acids and antioxidants to the scalp tissue surrounding the follicles without requiring full systemic digestion and distribution. It is complementary to internal use, not a replacement for it. Preparation. Grind 2 tablespoons of black sesame seeds to a fine powder. Combine with 1 tablespoon of coconut oil or extra virgin olive oil and a small amount of warm water to form a paste of spreadable consistency. For enhanced effect, half a teaspoon of amla powder can be added. Amla is one of the richest plant sources of vitamin C available, and vitamin C is a required cofactor for collagen synthesis in follicle tissue. Application. Begin with clean, damp scalp. Apply the paste in sections, working from the hairline toward the crown, using your fingertips to massage it into the scalp in firm circular motions for 5 full minutes. The massage is not optional. It serves two purposes: mechanical stimulation of scalp circulation and physical working of the active compounds into the follicle openings where they can be absorbed. Leave the paste on the scalp for 45 minutes. Cover with a shower cap to retain heat, which enhances absorption. Rinse thoroughly with lukewarm water and a gentle cleanser. Frequency: twice weekly for the first month, then once weekly as maintenance. Daily topical use is not necessary, and the oiliness of the paste makes it impractical for most people's schedules. William was 67 and had been using commercial black sesame paste from a supermarket for 2 months before coming to my practice and reporting no results. When I asked about his preparation method, he was consuming 2 teaspoons of whole unground seeds sprinkled on his food daily and had purchased a roasted commercial variety. The seeds were passing through his system largely intact, and the roasting had degraded most of the sesame content he needed. We switched him to raw black sesame seeds soaked overnight and ground fresh each morning. At 4 months, he reported that the new growth at his hairline was visibly darker than the gray that had preceded it. Same seed, completely different outcome from preparation method alone. The topical application produces results independently of the internal protocol for scalp health and hair texture, and the two together produce better outcomes than either alone. Think of the internal use as supplying the raw materials through circulation and the topical application as delivering them directly to the site that needs them most. One more thing before the next section. If you know someone whose hair has been graying fast and they have been wondering whether there is anything they can do about it naturally, share this video with them right now. Do not wait until the end. Share it now. You might genuinely help them. What results are realistic and what cannot be reversed? This is the most important section of today's video because unrealistic expectations are the primary reason people abandon this protocol before it has time to work. Black sesame seeds support an environment in which melanocytes that retain residual function can produce more melanin. They protect melanocytes from accelerated oxidative damage. They supply the specific cofactors that melanin synthesis requires. What they cannot do is regenerate melanocytes that have been completely destroyed. Hair follicles in which the melanocyte population has been entirely eliminated over many years of cumulative oxidative damage will not produce pigmented hair regardless of what nutritional support is provided. The biological machinery for pigment production is simply no longer present. This creates a realistic framework for what to expect. People who have been graying for a relatively short time, whose follicles still retain active or partially active melanocyte populations, and who address the nutritional gaps that may have accelerated their graying are the most likely to see visible color restoration and new growth. People who have been fully gray for many years are more likely to see improvement in hair texture, shine, and overall scalp health, with slower progression of new gray growth, rather than color restoration in already gray strands. Helen was 62 and had begun graying significantly in her mid-50s. She came to my practice not primarily about her hair, but about persistent fatigue. When I reviewed her nutritional status, her copper and iron levels were both in the lower range of normal, a pattern I see consistently in people who have been following low-calorie or restrictive diets for years. She began the internal black sesame protocol alongside a broader dietary correction. At 5 months, she noticed new growth in her temples that was measurably darker than the gray that had been growing there. It was not a complete reversal, but it was a clear and visible shift that had not been there before. Dorothy was 71 and had been fully gray for over 15 years. Her results were different. She saw no color change in her gray hair, but she reported that her hair felt substantially thicker and shinier within 6 weeks, and her scalp had stopped the chronic dryness that had bothered her for years. The nutritional benefit was real. The pigmentation restoration was not available to follicles that had been inactive for that long. Honest expectation setting is the most respectful thing I can offer you. This protocol is most powerful as a preventive and early intervention tool. It is a genuine support for hair health at any stage. Let me give you a concrete timeline framework based on what the research and clinical experience consistently shows. In the first 2 to 4 weeks, the changes happening are invisible at the scalp surface but measurable in the body. Copper levels are rising toward adequacy. Antioxidant compounds are accumulating in follicle tissue. The inflammatory environment of the scalp is beginning to shift. You will likely notice that your scalp feels less dry and that existing hair has slightly more sheen. This is the fatty acid and vitamin E effect appearing at the surface level. In weeks 4 through 8, if melanocyte activity is being restored in follicles that retained residual function, new growth beginning at the root level during this period will contain more melanin than previous growth cycles. This new growth is only millimeters long and not yet visible without close examination. Most people do not know to look for it. In months 2 through 4, if the protocol is working for your specific follicle biology, the new growth that began during the previous weeks becomes visible at the scalp line. It appears as a darker band of new hair emerging against the gray. This is the moment most people first notice something is changing. In months 4 through 6, the cumulative effect of sustained melanocyte support produces hair that is visibly different from the hair that was growing before the protocol began. The change is not dramatic in any single week, but is clearly apparent when compared to photographs taken at the protocol's beginning. This is why the photograph record is not just a nice idea, it is how you actually see what is happening, because you cannot perceive cumulative gradual change from day to day. You can only perceive it in comparison. Have you already noticed changes in your hair color, texture, or thickness over the last few years? Drop a yes in the comments if you have. I read every comment and it helps me understand what you are experiencing so I can create the most useful content for this community. The 5 mistakes that prevent results. Mistake 1. Using whole unground seeds. The outer shell of black sesame seeds is largely indigestible. Whole seeds consumed without grinding or soaking pass through the digestive system with most of their nutritional content inaccessible. Always grind or soak before consuming. Mistake 2. Expecting results in less than 60 days. The hair follicle cycle means that changes in melanocyte activity appear in new growth, not in existing hair. New hair growth takes weeks to become visible at the scalp surface. The minimum meaningful trial period is 2 months of daily use. Most people who report that black sesame does not work abandon the protocol within 2 to 3 weeks. Mistake 3. Using roasted commercial sesame seeds. High-temperature roasting degrades sesamin, sesamolin, and a significant portion of the vitamin E content. Commercial roasted sesame products are not equivalent to lightly toasted or raw black sesame seeds for this purpose. Source raw black sesame seeds and toast them lightly yourself at home, or use them raw. Mistake 4. Treating it as an isolated intervention. Black sesame seeds address the nutritional side of melanocyte health. They cannot counteract the accelerated oxidative damage produced by chronic sleep deprivation, sustained high stress, heavy smoking, or a diet dominated by processed foods. If these factors are present, the seed's antioxidant capacity is overwhelmed before it can protect follicle tissue. The protocol works best as part of a broader approach that includes adequate sleep, stress management, and an anti-inflammatory dietary foundation. Mistake 5. Stopping when results appear gradually. Gradual results feel like no results when you are looking in the mirror every day. The most common pattern reported by people who complete a full 6-month protocol is that they do not notice change week by week, but look at a photograph from 3 months earlier and see a clear difference. Keep a photograph record. It is the most reliable way to track gradual biological change that is invisible on a daily basis. Mistake 6. Ignoring the systemic factors that drive graying. Black sesame seeds supply the nutritional raw materials that melanocytes need. But if the reason melanocytes are deteriorating ahead of their natural schedule is chronic elevated cortisol from sustained stress, the seeds are addressing the symptom while the cause continues unopposed. Cortisol directly suppresses melanocyte activity and accelerates oxidative damage in follicle tissue. Sleep deprivation produces similar effects through its impact on the body's overnight repair and antioxidant regeneration cycles. The most powerful version of this protocol pairs the seed with genuine stress management and sleep prioritization. Without those foundations, even optimal nutritional support is working against a current. Your hair follicles, even those that have been producing gray hair for years, are still living tissue. They still respond to nutritional support. They still benefit from reduced oxidative burden. And the scalp health improvements that black sesame seeds produce are visible and meaningful regardless of whether pigmentation changes occur. The gray in your mirror is not a verdict. It is information. And now you have a specific, evidence-based way to respond to it. Leave a comment telling me how long you have been noticing gray in your hair and whether you have tried any natural approaches before today. Your experience helps other people in this community understand the range of situations and outcomes and decide whether this protocol is right for them. If this video gave you something genuinely useful, please share it with someone whose hair has been changing and who has been wondering whether there is a natural option. That share costs nothing, and it might save them years of chemical treatments. I'm Dr. Jake Taylor. Subscribe if you have not already. Take care of yourself, and I'll see you in the next video.